Hello everyone, welcome back to the series on implementing JWT in an Angular application by Smart Semester. In the previous video, we successfully created our Angular project, understood the basics project structure and ran it in the browser. Now, in this video, we are going to understand one of the most important building blocks in Angular, that are components. So first, what exactly is a component in Angular? A component is basically a small reusable part of the user interface. Instead of building the entire web page as one big file, Angular allows us to divide it into smaller sections. Each section is called a component. To make this clearer, let me show you a website. Let's say NASA. If we have a look over this website, it is divided into sections. There is usually a header at the top, a navigation bar. Below it, a main content area, maybe a sidebar. Here, if I press on it, this sidebar appears. And finally, a footer at the bottom. This is the footer. In Angular, each of these sections can be generated as separate components. Header can be one component. Navigation bar can be one component. Main content area can be another component. And finally, footer. This makes our application more organized, easier to manage and reusable. Now let's understand what makes up a component. As we discussed in the previous video, every component in Angular generally has three parts. By default, Angular gives an app component. So, TypeScript file which contains the logic. It has .ts extension. An HTML file which contains the structure or UI. It has .html extension. A CSS file which handles the styling. It has .css as extension. So you can think of a component like a small mini application inside our main application. Now let's create components for our project. For our JWT authentication project, we mainly need two components, login component and home component. To create components, we have a command, Ctrl+C to stop the development server, then ng generate component and component name. For example, login. Press enter. Angular will create login component with 4 files in it. As you can see, spec.ts, which we don't look into more. These 3 files, .ts, .css and .html. We use these 3 files more. Now you can see here inside app folder a new component called login has been created. When you open it, you can find 4 new files under the login component. In a similar way, if you want to create home component, ng, in shortcut you can just write G and C. G for generate, C for component. ng generate component home. When you press enter, and one thing you have to notice, every component by default will be generated within the app component. Login component will contain the login form where the user enter credentials. The home component will represent the protected page that users can see after successful login. Now let's talk about routing. Routing in Angular helps us navigate between different components without reloading the entire page. For example, when the user visits localhost I semicolon 4200 slash login, then we should display login component. In a similar way, when user visits slash home, we should display the home component. To achieve this, we define routes inside the routing module file. Within the app, we can find app.routes.ts. Here, first import two components which we have created. First one is login. Import login. When you click login itself, it will show the recommendation. Select it. And then import home. You have to import both the components to which we want to create routes. Within the square braces, enter flower braces path. When path is nothing, means just localhost semicolon 4200, we should redirect user to the login component. In a similar way, enter when path is login. We have to render the component login, and when the path is equals to home, we should render the component home. And the finally wildcard routing, meaning when user enters something other than login home, we should redirect him to login. In this way, we define routes in app.routes.ts. This is the default route, meaning when user enters nothing, we will redirect him to login. When it is equals to login component will get rendered, and when it is home component will get rendered. And the last one is wildcard routing, meaning when user enters other than login and home. Let's say he enters feedback page in the path. Since it is not there in our entire project, we redirect him to login. It is known as wildcard routing. Ctrl+S to save the changes. After defining the routes, we need to place the router outlet directive inside our main app component HTML file. This router outlet acts like a placeholder based on the URL. Angular dynamically loads the respective component inside this outlet. Now save it. After placing router outlet in the HTML of app component, start the server. ng serve. Enter. We get the link of development server URL. Ctrl+ click on it. It will open in the browser. Here you can see, if we enter login, inspect, let's see what's the error on the console. Path match is prefix, but often the intent is to useful. Okay. When we use the default route, here place one more key value pair, that is path match as full. Save it. You can see here dynamically the changes will be detected, and page reload will be sent to the clients. Now if you see, when we enter login, this router outlet now goes to the app.routes.ts when path is login. Inside this router outlet, what has to be loaded? That is login component. Inside login components, login.html, what it is there? Login works. It is given by Angular by default when we create a component. In a similar way, if I enter home works. Now what happens? This router outlet will replace login component with home component. Like this routing works. Now let's enter a different route which is not present in our app.routes.ts. Anything you can enter. What will it do according to the wildcard routing? Anything you enter, it will redirect us to login. This confirms that routing is working correctly. So in this video, we understood what components are, why components are important, how to create components, and how to configure routing between them. In the next video, we will move to another very important concept in Angular, which is services. Services will help us handle logic like authentication, API calls, and sharing data between components, which is very important for implementing JWT. Thank you for watching.